in our workspace here. Now we're going to be importing some information from that spreadsheet to create a new base, new database. So to get started, just add a base here by selecting this plus sign. We see some different options. We're talking about import today, so it won't be a surprise that we're selecting import data. This opens up a dialog. Got a number of different options. There's a lot of different tools that we could sort of import into Airtable, maybe Google Sheet, Trello, Asana. So you've got some different options there. You can also paste some table data or bring in a CSV file. Now we're going to start with a CSV file. And I'm going to select that. And that will open up this a dialog that we can either upload a file or drag and drop a file, but we need a CSV file. So let's jump back into our spreadsheet. Let's start in March orders. That's where we're starting. That's what we're importing first. And I'll select File, Download, CSV. Now, what is a CSV file? If you're not familiar. Well, this actual dropdown gives us exactly what it stands for. It's a comma separated values. And what that, it's a sort of fancy way of saying that this is a plain text version of this information, and it's easily readable and also exportable by multiple tools. So it's really helpful when it comes to transferring information between different tools. Exactly what we're doing here. So let's export a CSV. Great. So we've got it right there. Jump back to Airtable, and I'm just going to drag and drop that CSV. And notice this is just March orders. So we're just bringing in that one tab to start. Let's upload it. Great. So this has expanded our second dialog here. This is looking pretty good. We have the sort of name of each of those columns is now become a field. And it's important to note that Airtable at this step predicts, some possible field types based on the information in that column. So status became a single select. The items became a multi-select. And then our date field here became, our date ordered became a date field. So this looks great. I'm going to go ahead and import this to create our base. Cool. We've done it. Congratulations. We're well on our way to import it. So now that the base is created, this is really where we can start to dig in and make this our own. The first thing that comes to mind here, I'm going to rename this base because it sort of inherited the name of that CSV. So it's furniture, orders, and inventory. Cool. So that is the name of our base. Notice also that when we imported this, it created imported table. That's not super useful or informative. So I'm going to change this to orders because that is what we are, what's going to be stored in this table. Great. So we've got our key details here. We've customized. Also want to note that we can change the color. We'll change the color of the base as well as the icon. All important things, sort of making this our own. Awesome. So by importing our CSV and establishing the structure of this table, there's 6 fields here from order number to status. We can actually sort of expedite the next months, the other order months, because the structure of these tabs actually match how March orders are structured. So that was sort of a long way to say, let's just copy and paste the remaining orders in. So I'm in April orders, can just drag, select this range, head back into our base, select this sort of bar here, this adding a row or a record, and pasting that in. I just selected Command V and continue. And so because each of these, when we first imported, established that structure, anything we paste in is going to then also follow along with that structure as well. Let's do that one more time. So May orders, bring that in, copy this, and select, paste that in. So now all of our orders are in one place, single table. We've combined multiple tabs, or disparate tabs of similar information into one table. So that's what we've done here. And what can we do now? Well, we can, for example, group maybe by status. And we can quickly see, all right, this has been delivered. These have been shipped. And these are processing. And immediately it becomes clear, hey, maybe we should investigate this order that's been processing for quite a while. Or we say, hey, you know what? It's actually been shipped. We'll change that status, moves it into a different category. Great. So we've imported our orders. Let's move to the next group, the manufacturers. So I'm going to jump back into our spreadsheet. Our manufacturers are stored in this tab, our directory tab. Now, in the last step, we exported a CSV to create a new base. We can also, I may have jumped to this tab a little bit too quickly. We can also import and to create a new table. So let's go ahead and select add or import, and then select CSV. So it opens up this dialog, and I'm going to export our directory. File, download, CSV. Great. So let's bring that in to create this new table. Great. So it's our directory, and we'll upload this. All right. So this looks a little bit different than that first round. A few things that are standing out to me, sort of some red flags here, is that there's a lot of blank information. We have the field names here aren't informative. They don't really let me know what's stored in any one of those fields. So what this is saying is we need to investigate a little bit further and potentially just the way that we're importing this specific information. So fortunately, there are 3 yes or no questions that we can sort of ask ourselves to evaluate our spreadsheet to make sure that our import runs smoothly. So I'm going to cancel this. We'll try that again a little bit later, but let's jump back into our orders and inventory directory spreadsheet, jump back to our deck, and take a look at what we call the import readiness checklist. Now, I'm also going to paste this checklist in the chat because I will be sort of jumping back and forth. So I want to make sure that you have this checklist, sort of if you'd like it. But just want to make sure that that's super clear to everybody. Let's walk through these questions together, and they'll start to sort of make sense how this can really help us import into Airtable. So the first question, does the first row contain header details? So let's look at our spreadsheet. The answer is no. Right now it's blank. That actually explains why each of those fields was field 1, field 2, field 3. It didn't give any sort of information. And so it just sort of named the field just by those numbers. All right, let's look at the second question here. Does each row hold a unique list item? So that's kind of a interesting phrasing. Let's dig into that a little bit more. What does unique list item mean? Well, what are the unique list items, or the items that we're trying to track with this directory? In this case, it's manufacturers. So we would like each row to represent one manufacturer. So one row equals one manufacturer. Let's see, row 2, not quite. This was actually very far from what we're looking for. These have some merge cells here, letting us know sort of different regions that our manufacturers are from. Row 3 has that important header detail, but it's actually redundant. And then we see a row 4, we're getting closer here, but 2 manufacturers are represented in this row. And then the 5th row is the closest to what we're looking for. So 1 row equals 1 manufacturer. And let's also sort of jump to our third question here. Does each column contain one distinct type of information? So similarly, this is also a no. We look at maybe this column C. We're almost there. This column contains products, the products that our manufacturers produce, but there's some blank information. There's some merged cells here. And by comparison, if we jump back to May orders, for example, and look at column C, this is what we're looking for. The customer name and just a list of exactly that, those customers' names. So what do we do about this? Well, we've got 3 no's. We want to make sure we can bring this information in. We've got some options. One approach would be to restructure how this spreadsheet is organized to match maybe something a little bit similar to how our orders are organized. Another option and a faster option would be to copy and paste just a portion of the data. So if I just grab and select this range, we actually can answer yes for all 3 of those questions. The first row here has that header information. Subsequent rows have just represent each manufacturer, and then each column has a specific type of information. So let's do just that. I'm going to copy this range, head back into our base here, add or import, and select, instead of CSV, select paste table data. Now what this does is it does exactly sort of how it's framed up here. We're going to paste in some table data, very specific amount of that data, pasted that in, and making sure that this is checked. The first row becomes that header. So 4 different sort of columns, 4 different fields. Let's import this and see how this looks. All right, a lot less information, but also much cleaner and exactly what we're looking for. The header detail has been pulled in. 2 of those manufacturers are listed. Let's import this. Great. So same steps here. Now that we have this imported, I'll customize this manufacturer. That's what's in this table. And now let's bring in the remainder, the rest of our manufacturers. Cool. So I can copy this, paste this in. Same steps as we did with orders. Now, something that isn't here is clearly very important to our workflow in this case is these locations. So San Francisco, Chicago, Seattle. Let's bring in this this 5th manufacturer, and then we'll add in some details to represent that information, or add in a new field to make sure that that's represented as well. So to do that, I can just add a field here. We'll call this location and select single select. So the 3 locations were Chicago, Seattle, and I believe San Francisco. Right? Let's create that field. So it definitely is a process of bringing in those key details. This is a small enough amount of information that we can then add additional fields as it makes sense. So I believe Felix Road Studio, first 2 were San Francisco, then Seattle, and then Chicago. So just tagging these so that we are capturing those details. And then we can even then group by location. We're getting the same information, but now it's all sort of dynamic, stored in a way, in Airtable in a way that's much more accessible. Awesome. So we've brought in 2 tables here, orders, manufacturers. let's talk about those customers, and let's create sort of a customers table here. So in our spreadsheet, we don't actually have a dedicated customers tab. We only have sort of orders, and the customer information is buried in each one of our orders. Now, earlier in our session, when we brought in all our orders, we actually brought in every customer that's ordered from us in the last 3 months. So again, what's that question that we wanted to know? Which customer has ordered the most frequently? And we can see that Casey Park, for example, has ordered a couple of times. But again, it's not clear who has ordered the most frequently. So what can we do? Well, we touched on linked records a little bit earlier, drawing connections across different tables. So we can actually create a new table from an existing list of information. In this case, we can take this list of customers and generate a new table that lists every customer in the last 3 months. So let's do just that. I'll select this dropdown, customize this field type. And in this case, we're going to link to another record and create a new table. We want the table to be called customers. And let's save that and see what happens. So this converts those sort of that text field into a linked record. Now, what does this do? Let's jump into our customers table now. And all of a sudden, it's pulling in all of those orders because it's linked to the orders table. It's pulling in all of those orders where Casey Park's name has been listed. So we now know for a fact that this customer has submitted the most orders. And something I really like to do with linked records as well is add a count field, counts the number of linked records we see, and then sort by that count. So that as new orders are coming in, these will automatically sort of sort for us. So if Bob was to submit maybe 3 more orders, this would automatically sort Bob higher in this list. So creating connections across different tables, we now have our customers table, and we could build this out further, maybe adding, key contact details if we want to get in touch with that customer, something like that into this table, but building out that key list of customers. If we go back to orders, if we wanted to explore, maybe what Pat has ordered here, we can select that, pulls open that customer record, and lets us know every order that Pat has submitted. So it really does let you have a much more dynamic and sort of interactive sense with your information across these different tables. And it doesn't have to be orders and customers. And your workflow could be projects and tasks. It could be companies and contacts. I know I saw some great examples earlier, applicant tracking. So maybe applicants and roles. So you could create those connections there. We've got one more very critical table to bring in, and that is our products. So let's jump into our product inventory here. Awesome. So lots of great details here. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this information. Copy and paste that range, and let's bring that in as a table. So selecting paste table data and pasting that in. Now, first row is header, making sure that's selected. And let's paste that in or import that in. There we go. All right. So this is close, but this is giving me some sort of red flags again. There's some blank information here. We may want to sort of go back to our checklist, ask those questions, sort of reevaluate before bringing this in. So I'm going to cancel this and head back into our inventory. let's open up those questions and walk through this together. So does the first row contain header details? So in this case, that is a yes. So thumbs up there. Does contain header details. So product name, inventory, product ID, category, sale price. We're looking good. Second question, does each row hold a unique list item? So in this case, the unique list item is products. And I'd say almost. We have some sort of a bit of fluff here. We have some blank rows, and this is just sort of due to the formatting of this spreadsheet. And we've also merged some cells here. So instead, we may want to turn this sort of merge section into its own column, into its own field. So I'm going to call this manufacturer. And let's actually adjust how this spreadsheet looks. Oh, and I forgot a very key step. So before making a change to this, I'd actually suggest, and just best practice, let's duplicate. So we're working from the copy, because you always want to go back to, you may want to go back to your original. You can always rest assured that any changes that you're making, you can always have that sort of original to reference. So we're working in the copy. Let's make some changes here. So manufacturer name. Cool. And let's copy and paste the name of that manufacturer. So this will just take a few moments here. Oliver Jackson makers here. Let's paste this in. So now these will just become tags as opposed to sort of formatted sections in our spreadsheet. They'll become tags that we associate the same way that you might associate a category, the type, or maybe the inventory count. So one more to copy here. Great. Now let's clean up these extra rows. Delete both of those. So we're just adjusting this so that that second question is a yes. So one row equals one product. Oh, almost there. Great. Now I'm going to fix up this formatting just so it looks a little bit nicer. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So let's jump back to, so this is now a yes for our second question. So does each row hold a unique list item? That is a yes, because for example, this samurai bookshelf here, that one row represents the details for just that bookshelf. The third question is, does each column contain one distinct type of information? That is also a yes. By adjusting that formatting, we actually sort of answered a yes for that question as well. Category only contains category. Manufacturer price only contains manufacturer price. So let's copy this. Let's try that again. And I'm going to go ahead and, oh yes, let's go to add or import, paste table data, paste that in, and import. This looks a lot better already. We have that sort of field names there, lots of single selects being created. And now we have our imported products within our new base. This is looking great. Might just make some small tweaks here. One being adjusting this inventory to a number so that it's sort of standardized. I'll maybe group by category. And notice that our chairs are kind of all over the place. We've got 3 different categories for chairs. One thing that we can do to streamline this is just re-tag these so that they're all grouped together into a one chair tag, and remove these other tags and save that. And so now we've streamlined those single selects there. And So the last sort of adjustment I want to make and sort of answer that question of, all right, which product is the most popular in our orders? Well, we have this list of product names. Blue Moon Sofa, for example. If we look at orders, um, let's see, there's our Blue Moon Sofa. This is just an item tag at this point. But if we convert this into a linked record and link that to our products, that list of products, it's actually going to convert into and pull that information from our products table. So sort of a quick way to sort of speak to that, but now we're pulling in our order. So we see that Blue Moon Sofa is only associated with order 9, but Nebula Chair, oh, looks like Nebula Chair and Madrid Chair are very popular in the chairs. We have 4 orders for those. So some different things that we can do now that we brought this information in. Just to recap some of those different methods, we have a CSV. We did that first. This is really easily readable format between tools. So you can export and then import that, copy and paste, quick and easy method to really get granular and say, hey, I want to just focus in on a subset of this information. And then we have specific tools. Now, sort of the same thought process can apply when you're thinking about importing from a specific tool. So we didn't cover anything tool specific today, but the same concepts, the same sort of troubleshooting or problem solving, and those questions, the checklist questions can apply because of sort of getting that format, getting how your table is structured is the same.